everyone, I'm Jennifer Zarate and you're watching CRN TV. With millions of people now working from home, there is a growing concern on how to maintain a secure business while working remote. I'm joined by a panel of cybersecurity C-level executives to talk about how they're handling the shift to remote work, especially during this difficult time when customers are worried about cyber scams and/or other malicious activity against their network. Thank you for joining me. So what are you hearing from partners, especially during this time of uncertainty?
The transition to work from home has definitely been difficult and challenging for a lot of companies, but I'm super proud of what we've done ourselves in transitioning our employees to work remotely. We're hearing a lot of customers of ours having challenges. It's about processes that need to be changed completely to remote right now, and how do you manage the transition?
Yeah, so for us, when we look at the impact on our partners and our customers, we want to make sure that we can address those needs, their needs as quickly as possible and close gaps. Our company is primarily focused on supply chain security and disruption concerns, so it's quite topical for us to participate now in certain concerns that they have. In terms of our company, we moved to work from home immediately when the crisis started. So I think that we have a little bit more experience, I think, than the rest of the country in how to deal with this new mode of operation.
The portion of my life that's research and advisory is pretty easy to move to virtual. Because for the most part, people who do cybersecurity and are dealing with internet and web-related issues, are very comfortable working remotely. But at the university, it's spectacularly disruptive. And switching from physical learning to remote learning requires some planning. It looks easier than it is. So I think we all know that there's some sectors that feel a small disruption, and others like education that feel a very, very large one. I've seen both.
And as security leaders, what advice and best practices do you have for solution providers in the industry?
So definitely adopting modern technologies and modern workforces as much as you can is important. It gets you more productive, and understanding that, in a sense, this is the new reality for the foreseeable future. That's a very, very important element. Second thing, empathy, both internally and to your customers, is super critical. Our customers, our partners, all of them are going and living through this uncertainty, and we're very happy what we're seeing right now, but this could change, and our customers are facing challenges, and we need to be there to help them, both from an increase in attackers. We've seen a lot of increase in attacker activity, as well as companies who are transitioning now to completely remote and are now facing facing challenges around increasing phishing. How can you tell apart legitimate versus illegitimate when you always used to just talk to the person across from you? There's a lot of challenges. I think empathy is critical, communication is critical, and embracing of modern tech as fast as you can is helpful.
These are great points, and I think that for us it's we wanted to focus first on the people on the other side, make sure that our customers, the people that we're engaging with, their employees, that their needs are addressed, that they understand that we're there to support them anywhere that we can. It's just about making sure that they set their near-term goals to be very specific to the crisis that we have at hand, but then extend those goals a little bit beyond the horizon, such that it will fit their long-term strategies.
Jennifer, I'm going to offer some security advice to people watching, and it might sound a tad harsh, but it's tough love here. A lot of us have seen the TED Talk that Bill Gates gave some number of years ago, warning about pandemic. I'm sure Jonathan and Ofer would agree. All three of us and everyone we know has given 10 times more intense presentations on scenarios, cyber-related, that could be worse than what we're going through now. So what we don't want is we don't want in a few years to hear that a lot of companies let their guard down during this pandemic, weakened their cybersecurity infrastructure, and enabled something worse. So I've been telling my clients, again, I don't sell cybersecurity products, I advise on them, and I've been advising them, do something today that you're going to be proud of later. Do not go weaken your security infrastructure today, especially as every business on the planet is moving to the internet, moving virtual, this is the time to be bolstering and making sure that you're addressing that risk.
So I completely agree with Ed, and I just want to add, a lot of our assumptions when we're building security has been a combination of your endpoint, your network, identity, things along these lines. Well, our entire assumption model changed right now. The network no longer exists in a sense. Endpoints have become essentially more important, but even those are not what we used to think about them. This could be an employee's home computer that is now used to access now corporate assets. So agility of mind and then agility of rapid execution is absolutely critical right now to react to threats which are not going away. If anything, they're increasing and increasing rapidly.
What challenges has your company overcome during this time?
The biggest challenge was adjusting to the very, very changing schedules. Luckily, from an IT perspective, we were very much of embracing of what's called a zero trust in a remote. Really doesn't really matter if you're inside or outside of the world. So we've had a very, very smooth transition technologically. So our biggest challenges were around people management, making sure that productivity is as high as it can be given individuals' personal circumstances.
So having the ability to be able to support customers, support organizations during this crisis, where there's a physical dimension to our presence, that was, I think, one of the challenges that we had to overcome. We worked with our partners, we worked with our customers to make sure that we can address needs in the short-term perspective, but also reflect on how things will look like in the long term, because this crisis is not something that, don't expect a V-shape, don't expect to come back to normalcy in a couple of months, and we need to build our organization and support our customers in a mode that will allow us to support them in this fashion and for multiple months.
So what I've learned is, and I know Ofer and Jonathan understand this as well, is that during times like this, you have to communicate to make sure people understand the posture, the situation of the firm. They need to understand that if there's risks, you be honest with them. So really is a test of building trust, being honest, sharing with your team, communicating. These are all things that leaders know. And I'll tell you, I'll bet the guys have seen something similar. There's some people who can step up to that and some who can't. And the ones who can are going to have some trouble in the coming years, because this is not a one and done event. This is not something that ends in 2 weeks. So now's the time for people who are watching. If you lead a team, get them together if you haven't already, and sit down and be honest and explain what's going on. Do it every week, do it every day, or whatever cadence makes sense.
Now, as we look ahead, what will tomorrow's workplace look like? More specifically, how will you transition your employees back into the office?
That's a great question. And for us, again, being in a multinational company with offices in multiple geographies, every geography is different, both from a regulatory perspective, from a cultural perspective, and from a people's behavior perspective. The idea is, first and foremost, that the thing that is top of mind for us is employee health. Are we able to give them a safe work environment, giving both regulatory as well as best practices recommendation? The second, of course, is again adapting to an individual situation. There are geographies in which you are allowed to go back to the office, but childcare is still not available, and therefore the point is moot. And the second is making it gradual. All of this transition needs to be as gradual as possible and work with our employees to make sure that they adjust to their own personal situation as well as the entire workforce. Our employees are reacting amazingly so far. They've been doing above and beyond, and we need to work with them to make sure that the transition is as smooth as possible.
Yeah, I'll second almost everything that Jonathan said, and I think that for us, the primary focus is, again, to look at the individuals, look at the individual teams, understand how their function can be impacted or can be improved by going back to the offices. It's very geography specific and it's very individually tailored.
I think my firm is an example of one where we're not going to go back to normal. That's not the plan. We've already been planning out and creating and designing something that we think will be better than what we had before. Probably a lot more virtual. I mean, we're located at the corner of Fulton and Broadway in Manhattan, one of the busiest spots in Manhattan, where we all take the subway into work. That's just not going to happen for a while. We're just not going to do that. So we're envisioning a future that we hope is better. I'll bet a lot of people watching are in that discussion now? How can we come out of this better than what we were before?